From the moment Boruto received Momoshiki's Karma Seal, the assumption was that Boruto would one day gain access to his abilities, and with the introduction of a new category of techniques performed only by the Otsutsuki known as Shinjutsu, this lends further credence to Boruto, who is now 100% Otsutsuki, mastering the Shinjutsu abilities of not just Momoshiki, but also Kinshiki Otsutsuki. You see, people tend to forget that Boruto was given the Karma Seal of a Momoshiki who absorbed the power of Kinshiki and made that power his own. In fact, we see Momoshiki using Kinshiki's ability to create chakra weapons in his fight versus Naruto and Sasuke. So this proves that Momoshiki not only gained a power boost from the fusion process, but also the ability to use the abilities of Kinshiki Otsutsuki. Now, I know people will make the argument that the Momoshiki we saw post-death is base Momoshiki, not fused Momoshiki, and to that I agree. Well, to a certain extent. You see, what people fail to realize is that the Momoshiki Boruto continues to interact with is Momoshiki in his true spiritual form, not an unnatural physical state. What I'm trying to say is that Momoshiki looks like base Momoshiki because that is Momoshiki's true form, not whatever this form is. This form was achieved by consuming the genetic data of another person, but that doesn't mean his spiritual essence would also change. So one of two things happened when Momoshiki implanted his Karma Seal on Boruto. Either his, along with Kinshiki's data, was transferred over to Boruto, but his spirit shows as base Momoshiki since that is his true spiritual form, which would also mean that Boruto has the power and abilities of both Kinshiki and Momoshiki, or it could be that only Momoshiki's data was transferred over, which is why Momoshiki shows up as base Momoshiki instead of fused Momoshiki, which would also mean that Boruto only has the powers of base Momoshiki. Now, you could go either way, but you just be wrong. You see, the clear option here is the first option. This is because the precedent for it being the case has already been set by Shiba Otsutsuki himself. As explained in chapter 75, Shiba Otsutsuki underwent multiple karmic resurrections, meaning he did what Momoshiki is trying to do to Boruto multiple times. And by doing this, he became ridiculously powerful, and that's because the power and genetic material he obtained each time he resurrected with karma always remained. All the power he gained from the fruits he had devoured over millennia was retained within his body. This is why he became so powerful that he had to shed his mortal coil and ascend to another plane of existence. If it was that once an Otsutsuki dies and resurrects in a new vessel, all the power they obtained prior would not be transferred over, Shiba would not have been able to attain such power and retain it through multiple cycles. So this clearly proves that Momoshiki did retain the powers and abilities he absorbed from Kinshiki after their merger, as the precedent set would suggest. It's just that in his spiritual form, he looks like base Momoshiki since that's his true spiritual essence. Now, when it comes to the abilities themselves, I find Kinshiki more interesting. This is because Kinshiki didn't need a Renegon to perform the feats he displayed. In fact, unlike Momoshiki, who needs his Renegon to absorb chakra and travel to other dimensions using space-time ninjutsu, Kinshiki was able to do the same things as if it was just a natural affinity. In addition to that, Kinshiki had the ability to amplify his strength and speed by amplifying the strength of his muscle fiber. Now, you guys probably had no idea that Kinshiki had this ability, and that's because it was never given a name, nor was its existence mentioned in the manga or anime. In fact, the ability was only mentioned at one point in the novels, and this was when Sasuke made commentary on Kinshiki's strength, saying it couldn't be thought of as just simple muscle power. It had to be that the giant was strengthening his muscles with some kind of jutsu. This of course leads us into Kinshiki's data book, which says that he has the power to split worlds and obliterate all things. Although, to be fair, it was later revealed that this was a mistranslation. The actual translation is with the forbidden power to shatter the land and crush all things. So instead of splitting worlds, the actual translation is shatter the land. Now, while this does take him down a notch, it doesn't negate the fact that he was able to contend with a pre-nerfed Sasuke and the 5 Kage at the same time, along with being able to cut the god tree in half with a single swing of his sword. This of course is likely due to Kinshiki being able to augment his strength and speed, which is why I believe that this is the best Shinjutsu ability for Boruto to receive. You see, along with providing the user with a power boost, the ability doesn't require the user to have a dojutsu, or at least it seemingly isn't dojutsu based. That again is because Kinshiki never had a Renegon, yet had all of these abilities. Now, it could be due to his Byakugans, but Kinshiki would be a rare case since the Byakugan typically doesn't provide you with such abilities. It's possible but unlikely. Either way, the ability in the hands of Boruto, who now has the power of both Momoshiki and Kinshiki, would be absolutely broken and could possibly be how Boruto contends with Kawaki after he gets way stronger than Boruto due to him having the karma seal of a way stronger Otsutsuki. So at least when it comes to physical strength, he will likely get that from Kinshiki, but when it comes to hacked abilities, that's where Momoshiki comes in. You see, while Kinshiki seems to have the ability to augment his physical prowess, Momoshiki has the ability to augment the strength of his jutsus. He does this by first absorbing the jutsu with his Rinnegan in one hand, then augmenting and releasing the ability with the Rinnegan in his other hand. The obvious weakness here is that someone can just destroy his Rinnegans as seen in the fight versus Sasuke, so that's kinda where Kinshiki has the advantage since he doesn't need a Rinnegan to perform his augmentation. So if Boruto does gain that ability, it might be useful to a certain degree, unless he gets the Momoshiki treatment of course. Aside from that, Boruto would also gain the ability to use chakra rods to restrain and impale his opponent similar to Kawaki, along with the fact that he would be able to perform all 5 natures including Yin release and Wood release, since Momoshiki had all of those abilities, at least in the novels. When it comes to fighting someone like Kawaki specifically, Wood release would be Boruto's greatest weapon because as we know, karma can't absorb organic material. Better yet, Kawaki can only shrink non-living matter using Tsukunai Ikona, so he likely wouldn't be able to shrink wood style if Boruto manipulates the existing wood in a given area rather than creating it using chakra. Naturally, he would be able to reinforce that wood style with his powerful chakra, so it wouldn't be weak by any means. Now we spoke about the genetic data being transferred over to Boruto because that's the responsibility of the karma seal itself. So in essence or in theory, Boruto should technically be able to manifest Momoshiki's Renegans, but will he? The answer is no. He likely won't due to the look of the dojutsu itself because it doesn't really look like a protagonist kind of eye, so they might kinda like remove that from Boruto and they maybe give him the abilities of the Rinnegan but not give him the Rinnegan itself. Although I could see them giving Boruto maybe a Rinnegan in his hand because it doesn't really show that much, it only shows when he uses the ability, so I can see them going that route, but we're never gonna see Boruto with a Rinnegan in the middle of his forehead. That's never gonna happen. However, if we go off the logic of the series itself, it would dictate that Boruto should manifest those abilities and should manifest those dojutsus since his body is being remodeled by Momoshiki's DNA. Logic would dictate that Boruto should manifest Momoshiki's dojutsus as well, similar to Kawaki with Ishiki. So this is really just a case of the writers ignoring the logic of their own series because it kinda limits them from doing what they really want to do. So I think that's basically what's happening here. All in all, that's it for the videos. I don't know if Momoshiki has any other abilities, maybe he does, and a good theory is that Boruto might manifest a new Shinjutsu ability specific to himself. Of course, we haven't even touched the Jogan because that's like a topic for itself entirely, but I think Boruto being 100% Otsutsuki, not 100% Momoshiki, might give way for Boruto to manifest an ability for himself, you know? So I think that would be pretty interesting to see. Let me know your thoughts on that down below because that's it for this video. And also drop a like if you like the video and subscribe to the channel if you're new, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.